Oh yeah, I won't argue that point. First off, welcome to JFA. Jesus Freak Anonymous. Turn to your neighbor and say, I'm a Jesus freak. Thank you, Daniel, for that word this morning. My name's Skip, and I am a Jesus freak. Hi, Daniel. Can we drop the mic and walk off now? Pastor Kenny hit me up to do this, so it's been over a month ago, so I've had plenty of time to prepare. And I said, how can I go up there and do that? And Isaiah 61 says, the Spirit of the Lord God is upon me, because the Lord has anointed me to preach good tidings to the poor. He has sent me to heal the brokenhearted, to proclaim liberty to the captives and opening of the prison to those who are bound. So, you all got the same rights. You all have the same book I do. Is this working? Okay, so I've had an awesome week. 6 of us went down to Texas and spent 3 days at a Spirit-filled conference. Wonderful worship, wonderful teaching, awesome teachers. And I left. I had my message done. I was ready. I'm in the tall cotton, as they say, you know. Then I get back home, Thursday morning, sitting there, slept in finally, first time all week. I got to sleep past 5 or 6 o'clock. So I get up and I've read my devotionals, did my daily reading, sent an email to my accountability partner. I open up my notes. God says, that's not what you're supposed to teach this week. I said, oh, yeah. That's what I'm going to teach, Lord. He said, no. What did you learn down in Texas? I said, I learned a lot of stuff in Texas. But God. Well, you don't go to but God with God. You're going to find out God's got a bigger butt than you do. He will take you down. So like I said, we had a great time down there at the conference. And worship. That's where he spoke to me, was during the worship. I went to some good classes and I learned some stuff. I come back better than I went. But the worship, it was like you're standing by yourself, close your eyes, your arms in the air, tears flowing. God was speaking to everybody. And that was the mission of their conference. They wanted everybody to hear from God before they left. And if you didn't hear from him, you didn't want to, because he was there. And it was, so like I said, I was all ready. I was opening my notes, and I argued with God. No. So I made a right turn, another right turn. U-turn, just like in Texas. We made a lot of them. I was recalculating, so here we go. I'm doing my early quiet time, and he showed up, and he says, no, you know what I told you down there. And I said, yeah, I know what you told me, but I thought that was for me. He said, no, I want you to take it back and share it with the church. I said, I kept arguing. I said, but God. He says, listen to what I'm saying, not what you're thinking I'm saying. So like I said, that song that spoke to me, it's out here on the billboard this morning. I changed it this weekend. I am who he says I am. And that song just spoke to me loud. But I kept saying, but God. Well, then he rolled out the but God verses, He said, you meant evil against me, but God meant it for good. He said, there shall be consumed in the grave, but God will redeem my soul. My flesh and heart fail, but God. For scarcely for a righteous man will one die, yet perhaps for a good man someone would even dare to die, but God. Eye has not seen, nor ear heard, the things which God has prepared for those who love him, but God has revealed them to us through his Spirit. I have my message prepared, but God had a better one. So when you see the words, but God in the Bible, expect something. Something's coming. Because he's going to change something. He's going to speak to somebody. He's going to do something. And the song that started off, it says, he whispers in my ear. Tells me that I'm fearless. And he shares a melody and tells me to repeat it. So yeah, he whispered in my ear down there. I heard him loud and clear. And he spoke to me. I know when he talks to me. I know when I've disobeyed him too. But the line that really got me was he tells me I'm fearless. Because I haven't always been fearless. I used to say I was fearless. I wasn't scared of nothing but police and women, like Burt Reynolds used to say. But I've found I'm afraid of snakes too, so. You want to chase me hear me scream like a girl, pick up a snake and chase me. But don't lay it down. So like I said, he talked to me down there, and he said, you didn't always listen to me. You were fearful before. And I said, yeah, I know, Lord. And one time that really struck out in my heart was about a year and a half ago at my uncle's funeral. My uncle didn't go to church, but through the dying process, my dad's pastor went down there with him. And I truly believe he was led to the Lord at the end. And they bring some pastor in off the street, nobody knew, didn't know Bob, and he preached a message. I knew more about that preacher when I left there than I did Bob. I knew a lot about Uncle Bob anyway, but nobody else that came to knew anything, heard anything. So we get out there to the cemetery, and that pastor, he says, didn't Bob pick a beautiful place to spend eternity? And what part of the Bible are you reading, dude? You know, crack smoker. I heard that down there too. But he just hit me with that, and I thought, he's not here, dude. Bob is not here. And he comes to a point and he says, would anybody like to share anything or say anything? God's jabbing me. He ain't just whispering in my ear. He's hollering. He said, Skip. He gave me the words and everything. I was scared. Out of fear, I kept my mouth shut. Out of fear, somebody didn't hear the truth. Out of fear, somebody didn't hear the gospel of Christ. Out of fear, I might have a family member going to hell. That was a tough time. I mean, I've been around people that have depression, claim depression. That was the closest I've been to, because I was in a dark, dark spot after that. So that was a really tough time in my memory, but God. I knew I'm never going to have that group together again, but God. I know I'm forgiven, but God. I still know I missed sharing a word with somebody that needed to hear it that day. Because he told me, somebody needs what you got, but God. I still pray today that I'm going to get the opportunity to share with whoever that was I was supposed to talk to that day, and God will let me know when it's there. So I'm not going to be afraid anymore. I'm not going to be anonymous. You will know I'm a Jesus freak. I'm going to stand on what Paul said in 2 Timothy, first chapter, 7th verse. For God has not given us a spirit of fear, but of power and of love and of sound mind. And I love that verse. Basically, Paul was saying, don't let fear get in the way of you speaking the truth. I did. Don't let fear get in the way of speaking up when you are right. I did. Don't let fear get in the way of being a witness for Christ. I did. I was guilty. He said, don't let fear get in the way of using the talents and gifts that God has given you. And I have, but no more. So when he shares a melody to me and whispers in my ear and tells me to share it, I'm not going to sing it to you because I'm not a singer. But I'm going to share the lyrics he gives me. You will know if I've heard from God, because I will tell you. And he's got a lot of good things to say also in the book. But the chorus of the song goes, I am who he says I am. Repeat that with me. I am who he says I am. One more time. I am who he says I am. And you know who he says you are? He says you are his own. You are his. So I'm going to share you some I am scriptures. I am forgiven. I am redeemed. I am a child of God. I am who he says I am. I am sanctified. I am a new creature. I am redeemed from the curse of the law. I am who he says I am. I am delivered from the powers of darkness. I am free from all bondage. Fear was my bondage. I am who he says I am. I'm getting all my needs met. I am strong in the Lord and power of his might. I love this one. I'm a royal priest. You are too. It says so right in the Word. You're an ambassador for Christ. It says so right in the Word. I am who he says I am. I'm blessed coming. I'm blessed going. I'm on the top, not the bottom. I am who he says I am. I am more than a conqueror. I am an overcomer by the blood of the Lamb and the word of my testimony. I am who he says I am. So I am daily overcoming the devil. He's under my feet. If he wants to hear from me, he can read the bottom of my shoe, because that's where I put the note. I am the righteousness of God in Christ. I am an imitator of Jesus. You're the only Jesus some people are going to see. And I blew my chance that one day. But I am who he says I am. And I am blessing the Lord at all times and continually praising the Lord with my mouth. I am who he says I am. And that's just a part of who he says you are. Just a small part. You can find so many I ams and promises that you just have to claim them. They are there. They are there for you. They are there for me. They are there for you, John. You, John. That's cool. In the book of Acts, Saul, he met up with Jesus. He was blinded. Had scales on his eyes. And that's what one of the lines of that song says. I was blinded by scales upon my eyes. Jesus sent Ananias to Saul, and before he became Paul, and laid hands on him in Jesus' name, and them scales hit the floor. Scales dropped. And the song keeps going. It says, chains are broken. Everybody's got some chains somewhere along the line. They were in bondage. They've held something. Their scales are on the floor. Wipe them eyes. They're gone. The truth is spoken. I'm no orphan anymore. I am who he says I am. Everybody else say that? I am who he says I am. I'm loved. I'm new again. I am free. So tonight, as we prepare to take communion, the word he told me to share with you all is do not fear. And that's in the Bible so many times it's not funny. Do not fear. Do not be afraid. Do not be afraid to raise your hands for what people think. Do not be afraid to tell somebody about Jesus, because they might not hear it from the next person. Do not be afraid, because he is with you. If he tells you to do it, he's going to be with you through it. So I got Daniel. I'm going to have him play a song here in a little bit. I'm going to have you all stand and just listen to the words of this song. Because it says, the name of the song is I Am All He Says I Am. And shake them chains off. Wipe them eyes, let the scales hit the floor. Because you are what he says you are. It's all right here. In black and red. The red part really pay attention to. So I thank you for letting me share this tonight. And like I said, I do want Daniel to play this video here now. And like I said, I want you all to rise and just give it to God right now.